Hey there, welcome to this explainer. I'm so glad you're here today because
Let me tell you, the story we're looking at is going to completely blow your mind. You know that old saying, truth is stranger than fiction? Well, every once in a while, a true crime story comes along that totally redefines what that actually means. Today, we're diving into this incredibly bizarre, almost unbelievable chain of events where deception, vanity, and honestly just sheer arrogance all collide into one of the most absurd downfalls you will ever hear about. If you love a good breakdown of how a so-called perfect plan can spectacularly blow up in someone's face, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the mechanics of a truly baffling crime step by step. Seriously, how did a simple bowl of soup expose a killer? I know, it sounds like a joke, doesn't it? Or maybe the setup for a slapstick comedy. But I can assure you, the stakes here were literally life and death. Now, criminal masterminds usually try to prepare for absolutely everything. They lock down their alibis, they wipe away fingerprints, they meticulously plan their timelines. But at the end of the day, human nature is deeply flawed, and we all have blind spots. Think about that for a second. What happens when the ultimate undoing of a brutal, cold-blooded murder isn't some brilliant detective or a fancy piece of forensic tech, but something as completely ordinary as a bowl of soup? Well, to truly grasp how this whole thing unraveled, we actually need to fast forward right to the climax of the story. Just imagine the tension here. We are inside a quiet, sterile hospital room. There's a man lying in a hospital bed, recovering from extensive medical procedures. He's surrounded by anxious family members who've been waiting with bated breath for him to wake up. The room is just heavy with relief, and yet, completely unbeknownst to this family, the entire scene is built on a monstrous lie. The man in that bed, total fraud. The real husband is already dead, and the tension in this room is literally seconds away from snapping and bringing this entire dark deception out into the light.
Okay, let's dive into this. How on earth did we get to that hospital room? Well, we have to look at the players in this profoundly tragic love triangle. We've got a nurse, we've got her lover, and of course her husband, who is the tragic victim in all of this. This is the foundation of our dark narrative, a secret relationship completely fueled by betrayal. But you know, while most affairs usually end in difficult conversations or a messy divorce, this nurse and her lover decided to go down an entirely different, incredibly dark path. They didn't just want to be together, no, they wanted to erase the husband completely and seamlessly step right into the life he had built.
So this twisted relationship evolved into a deeply disturbing master plan. I really want you to absorb these two steps, because the sheer audacity of it is just staggering. Step 1, murder the husband. A horrific, irreversible act. But it's step 2 that takes this from a tragic domestic crime straight into the realm of the absurd. Step 2, swap the lover into the husband's life using plastic surgery. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. Their entire strategy relied on physically altering the lover's face to mimic a dead man. They genuinely assumed that a few surgical procedures would be enough to fool this man's entire family, his friends, his whole community. The level of delusion required to think you can just surgically step into another human being's existence, it's almost beyond comprehension. So, a burning question naturally pops up. Where on earth do you even get an idea like this? I'll give you a hint. It definitely didn't come from a textbook on logic. The source material actually reveals that this wasn't just some sudden crime of passion. No, it was a highly premeditated scheme directly inspired by the movies. We're looking at a classic case of real versus real here. The nurse and her lover didn't just pull this plot out of thin air. They watched a movie, saw a fictional plotline unfold on the big screen, and somehow completely convinced themselves that they could flawlessly execute movie magic in the real world. Their inspiration was actually the hit Telugu film Yavadu. Now, in the realm of cinema, anything is possible, right? Plastic surgery is instantaneous. Scars heal up perfectly, voices magically match up without a hitch, and the suspension of disbelief keeps the audience cheering. But the grim reality of a sloppy murder plot, totally different story. Real-world biology does not care about movie scripts. In reality, surgery leaves undeniable traces, recovery is agonizingly slow, and human behavior is incredibly difficult to fake 24/7. They really thought they were directing an action thriller, but they were actually starring in a rapidly collapsing tragedy. Which brings us right back to that tense hospital room we talked about earlier. The surgery's done, the lover's in the bed, all wrapped up in bandages, desperately attempting to play the role of the recovering husband. The family is there, super eager to show their love and support. And I mean, what do families do when someone they love is recovering in the hospital? They try to bring them comfort. They try to bring them a little slice of home. So, the family of the murdered husband decides to offer this recovering patient his absolute favorite meal. It's a gesture of pure love. But for the imposter lying in that bed, it was a sudden, terrifying test he hadn't studied for. And the dish the family lovingly prepared and handed over was mutton soup, a rich, heavy, meat-based broth that the deceased husband absolutely adored. Picture the moment. The bowl is handed over, the aroma fills the room. For the family, this is a beautiful act of feeling. But for the man in the bed, the lover, this bowl of soup is suddenly an impossible, terrifying hurdle. He's staring down at a meal that he, fundamentally as a person, simply cannot consume. And this brilliantly illustrates the mundane truth that brought their entire house of cards crashing down. The lover, the guy who had literally undergone agonizing surgery to steal another man's identity, the man who had conspired to commit murder, was a strict vegetarian. Seriously. In all of their intricate movie-inspired planning and all their arrogance, they completely forgot to account for basic, ingrained dietary habits. The lover was physiologically and psychologically repulsed by the meat-heavy mutton soup that his new character was supposed to love. It was this sheer, instinctual refusal that ruined everything. Confronted with the bowl of mutton soup, the vegetarian lover simply could not eat it. He refused the victim's absolute favorite dish. And in that split second of refusal, the illusion completely shattered. The family, who were probably already subconsciously picking up on those subtle differences that surgery could never hide, saw this blatant contradiction in behavior. The real husband would never turn down his favorite soup. That single, reflexive action, driven purely by personal dietary restrictions, instantly exposed the imposter, unraveling a complex murder plot right there in the hospital ward. So, it really leaves us with this final, provocative thought to ponder. When life imitates art, who writes the ending? The nurse and her lover tried to write themselves a flawless Hollywood ending by meticulously planning a cinematic identity swap. But they totally forgot that in the real world, the ending is written by the small, undeniable truths of human nature. You can change a face, but you cannot easily change the deeply ingrained habits of who a person really is. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this look at such a bizarre case leaves you as fascinated by the flaws in human deception as I am. Keep questioning the details, and I will see you next time.